This is what ATMs looked like in the 60s. And yes, that is a person manning it. And this is John Lennon, casually reading a fan letter that warns him, via Ouija board, about his own assassination. From psychological syndromes caused by too much smiling, to the fact that more testosterone can actually make men dumber, I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 facts that'll defy your expectations. Depending on your age, you might already know this, but the first ATMs in the US weren't really machines. They were more like kiosks, with a person hiding behind the wall. The very first one was installed by Chemical Bank in 1969 in Rockville Center, New York. It used magnetic stripe cards, which was a big leap forward compared to what other countries were doing at the time, but it still needed someone behind the divider. You'd insert your card and, somewhere out of sight, a bank employee would verify your info and push the cash through, like a remote control teller. Full automation didn't occur until the mid-70s, once PIN verification was invented, and banks were able to network their systems. If you have to fake smile your way through the day, you should know that it can make you physically ill. Smile mask syndrome was first described in Japan in 1983 by psychologist Makoto Natsume. He noticed that people in public-facing jobs had higher rates of depression, anxiety, headaches, muscle pain, and even repetitive strain injuries from holding a smile too long. The syndrome isn't officially listed in manuals like the DSM-5, but it's widely recognized in Japan as a cultural phenomenon, one that's closely tied to omotenashi, the country's deep-rooted tradition of hospitality. Before Leonardo DiCaprio won us all over in Titanic, he was just a skinny kid trying to make it on the breakdancing scene in 1980s LA. He got so into it that he finished second in a small competition in Germany when he was about 11. That's also when he picked up the nickname The Noodle, thanks to his loose, floppy moves. In fact, his love of dancing actually hurt his chances with early agents, because they had no idea how to find parts for a kid who just wanted to pop and lock. Years later, that energy showed up in The Wolf of Wall Street. You remember that ridiculous dance he did? It was completely improvised, and Scorsese loved it so much, he left it in. Now, if F1 is your thing, you probably know that we were very close to never having the pleasure of ever seeing Max Verstappen in action. On July 31st, 1994, during the German Grand Prix, Max's dad, Jos Verstappen, pulled into the pits for a standard refuel. But the fuel hose snagged, sprayed gasoline across the car, and caught fire instantly. The Benetton F1 was swallowed in flames, and Jos was completely engulfed. Despite the accident, he barely suffered any burns, except for a few on his nose and foot. They later found out the team had removed a safety filter to speed up pit stops, a decision that could have cost them everything. But as fans know, Jos walked away, and 3 years later, Max was born. Speaking of incredible moments in sports, in 2024, the Japanese ski jumper Ryōyū Kobayashi did something absolutely incredible. He landed a 955-foot ski jump off a temporary hill in Akureyri, Iceland. And just to put that into perspective, not only was it more than 120 feet longer than the standing world record, it was so far he would have easily cleared 2 entire football fields and kept going into a third. The previous record, set by Stefan Kraft in 2017, was already seen as pretty much the ceiling, so this was nothing short of spectacular. However, since the jump took place during a Red Bull promotional event and not during an official competition, it wasn't ratified. So the old record still stands today. On paper, anyway. This next bit of info might come as a shock to buff men everywhere, but it's now been confirmed that more testosterone equates to less brain power. According to a 1998 study, men's fluid intelligence actually goes up with testosterone, but only up to a point. Once levels are too high, cognitive performance quickly goes down. Researchers call it a curvilinear pattern, which basically means there's a sweet spot, and going past it does more harm than good. A 2024 study found the same thing. Men with high testosterone levels had more challenges with cognitive tests, while those with moderate levels performed better overall. So yeah, when it comes to brain function, more testosterone isn't always better. Moving on. Let's talk about the time Nissan created self-parking chairs just for fun. In 2016, as a promo for their intelligent parking assist system, Nissan rolled out the intelligent parking chair. The chairs were mounted on motorized bases that could rotate 360 degrees, and they were tracked by cameras mounted on the walls and ceiling. When someone clapped, the chairs would glide neatly back onto the table on their own. Sadly for us, they weren't made for mass production. It was just a clever way to show off how precise their self-parking car tech had become. The stunt went viral, landed in all the blogs, and gave us all a wish list item we can only hope for. Standing ovations in that office must be amazing. Here's one for all you cat people. You've been right all along. It's been proven that cats are basically perfect. According to Anjali Goswami, an evolutionary biologist, cats, whether domestic or wild, barely vary in body shape or skull structure. And yet, they thrive almost everywhere. That kind of consistency usually means evolution got it right early and didn't need to make many changes. A 2025 study found that even something like orange fur comes from one minor genetic tweak on the X chromosome. It changes pigment, not the overall design. That's how efficient their biology is. Just minor adjustments to a model that already works. Cats weren't shaped by human breeding either. They came in, handled the pests, and stuck around. In short, we just got lucky. Okay, so everyone living here in the US almost certainly knows this already, so if you do, this one is for our foreign friends. Did you know there's only one site in the world where you can dig for diamonds and keep what you find? It used to be a diamond mine, but Arkansas bought the land in 1972 and turned it into Crater of Diamonds State Park. The park, located in Murfreesboro, sits right on top of an ancient volcano crater that's naturally rich in diamonds. Visitors can dig around in a 37-acre plowed field, and if you spot something sparkly, it's yours. Since it opened as a park, more than 35,000 diamonds have been found by regular people just like you and me. Staff will even check your find, identify it, and give you a certificate if it's the real deal. We're also living in the age of nanoflowers. Scientists recently created tiny cell-forming structures made from copper phosphate and tannic acid, the same compound found in wine and leather making. They're incredibly small, but their shape gives them a huge surface area, making them perfect for carrying drugs or healing compounds. Not those type of drugs. During initial experiments, researchers found that when added to bandages or wound dressings, they help reduce inflammation, fight bacteria, and speed up healing. So yes, somewhere between bioengineering and flower arranging, science might have just made healing a little easier for us all in the prettiest way imaginable. What's your favorite flower? Let me know in the comments below. I have to think about it because there are a lot. We've all heard about strange things that have fallen from the sky. I mean, here at List 25, I've covered things like chunks of ice, spiders, frogs, even bits of airplane debris. But what happened to a group of disc golfers in May 2025 is just crazy. The group, out for a quiet day in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, were minding their own business when a hammerhead shark literally dropped from the sky and landed near the 11th hole at Splinter City Disc Golf Course. According to witnesses, an osprey had snatched the shark from the ocean and was flying inland, probably looking for a quiet place to eat. It made it more than half a mile before two crows started chasing it. The osprey lost its grip, and the shark fell from the sky. Anyway, did you know that Greece's €1 coin uses the same owl design that appeared on ancient Athenian coins more than 2,500 years ago? When Greece joined the Eurozone in 2002, it adopted the shared euro like everyone else. But a lot of people don't know that each country gets to design its own national side of the coin. In Greece's case, well, they chose to bring back the owl. The original owl showed up on silver tetradram coins around 510 to 480 BCE alongside an olive sprig and a crescent moon. Today, Greece's little owl is legal tender across Europe, but it's also a direct link to classical Athens. Meanwhile, over at Georgia Tech, engineers are working on boots that can think faster than you do. And it's all in the quest to reduce fall risk, especially for seniors or people recovering from injuries. In a 2023 study, they teamed up with Emory University to test special robotic boots. Volunteers stood on a platform that suddenly shifted, like if you slipped or tripped. If the boots were set to react like we would, people fell. So they programmed them to react before a human would, and people managed to stay upright. They're still testing it, but they're not stopping at just preventing falls. In later work, the team also built an AI-powered system that can handle all kinds of movement, walking, standing, and even climbing stairs. They're not ready for rollout just yet, but we might be seeing them soon. Of course, not all of our problems involve falling. Some just involve refusing to go to bed. Our increasingly busy lives and the need for some me time have led to the rise of something scientists have coined bedtime procrastination. The term was first used in the early 2010s to describe what happens when people delay going to sleep for no reason at all, just to reclaim a bit of personal time at the end of a long day. It's especially common among women and students, and often tied to stress, overloaded schedules, and low self-control. There's even a term for the more extreme version, revenge bedtime procrastination. That's when people stay up way too late as a kind of pushback against packed days. Problem is that it leads to worse sleep, even worse fatigue, and never-ending grumpier mornings. On a totally different note, there is a clock in Belgium that makes every smartwatch look like a joke. The Zimmer Tower in Lier houses Louis Zimmer's 1930 creation, the Jubilee Clock, and its even more distinguished cousin, the Wonder Clock. The Jubilee Clock has 13 faces showing everything from moon phases and tides to zodiac signs and global time, all driven by a single mechanized system. The Wonder Clock, built for the 1935 World's Fair, is even more absurd. It has 93 minuscule dials tracking planetary movements, 26,000-year precession cycles, tides in major ports, astronomical data, and a few temporal facts. It's widely known as one of the hardest clocks to read in the world simply because there is too much information. It's still fully mechanical and still draws a crowd at the top of every hour when its statues emerge and the portraits start gliding by. Which brings us to a unique psychological treatment, and a very controversial one at that. Researchers have found that a single dose of psilocybin, the active compound in magic mushrooms, can reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety for months. In some cases, up to 5 years. That's not hype. One long-term follow-up study found that 60 to 80% of participants continued to show significant improvements 5 years after treatment. Now, I should make it clear that this isn't just a microdose or a placebo. The dose used is high enough to trigger a full psychedelic experience, complete with visual changes and emotional shifts. But it happens in a carefully controlled setting, guided by trained therapists. The results have been promising, especially for people facing treatment-resistant depression or end-of-life anxiety. It's not legal everywhere, but the science does suggest that psilocybin could offer real, lasting relief far beyond the high. Alright, from controversial cures to what has now scientifically been confirmed as the worst year to be alive ever, let's talk about 536 CE. It wasn't just a bad year. It was the opening act of what historians now call one of the darkest periods in human history. A mysterious fog rolled over parts of Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, blocking sunlight for over a year. Temperatures plummeted, crops failed, people starved. And this isn't just folklore or exaggeration. Ice cores from Greenland showed a massive spike in volcanic ash and sulfate, likely from an eruption near Iceland. Tree ring data backs it up too. Growth basically stopped in places like Europe and China. Things didn't just bounce back. What followed was over a decade of economic collapse, widespread famine, and, just to top it off, the first wave of the bubonic plague. And then there's the white monkey phenomenon, China's strange corporate habit of hiring white faces just to boost appearances. It's not about what you know, it's about what you look like. These gigs usually involve standing in for fake executives, shaking hands at ribbon cuttings, or sitting in on meetings to make a company look more global. The practice really took off after the 2008 Olympics, when looking global became a priority. By 2021, a South China Morning Post report pegged it at over 10,000 hires annually. Most of the demand now comes from smaller cities and lesser-known firms, but the thinking hasn't really changed. If you want your business to look prestigious, rent a foreigner. Okay, it's time to talk politics. But before you click skip, hold up. It's actually a fun one. In Uganda, they've got a rule that basically says no siblings on the ballot. Well, not in those exact words, but under the Local Governments Act, candidates from the same immediate family are strongly discouraged from running against each other for the same office. The idea is to keep elections clean and competitive without the drama of family feuds, or worse, Coordinated campaigns where both candidates are actually working together behind the scenes. I mean, you got to be kidding me. How interesting is that? The next spot on today's list was reserved for something even slipperier than politics. Bananas. In the 50s, the banana industry was almost wiped out by Panama disease. It's a soil-based fungus that attacks the roots, and once it's in the ground, there's basically no stopping it. The disease completely decimated the Gros Michel variety, which used to be the top banana, in banana speak, so the world switched to the Cavendish banana. The Cavendish showed its resistance at first, but then a new strain of the disease, TR4, popped up in the 90s, and by 2019, it reached Colombia, the banana capital of the Americas. So right now, farmers are actually scrambling to grow other varieties and diversity because if the Cavendish goes, we're in trouble. Also, fun fact, anytime you eat banana candy or anything banana flavored, it's actually the Gros Michel version. So that's what bananas used to taste like. If you ever notice the Cavendish tastes nothing like, or banana candy tastes nothing like the bananas you can get now, another fun fact, because you're tasting the old bananas. Every parent today worries about too much screen time. In fact, you almost can't open a social media app without seeing some influencer going on about it. But in the 1700s, people were actually afraid the youth were reading too much. Back then, novels were the main culprit. They sparked what critics called reading mania, reading rage, or even reading fever. Commentators across Europe warned that fiction was corrupting young minds, pulling them away from morals, duty, and hard work. And it became worse in 1774 when Goethe published The Sorrows of Young Werther. Some believe the book led to troubling behavior, so much so that it got banned in multiple countries. Before screen time, it was story time that had everyone worried. Either way, while the rest of Europe panicked over paperbacks, one Scottish clan came up with a much more hands-on approach to conflict resolution. On a small island in Loch Leven called Elena Comrith, I apologize, my Gaelic is a little rusty, which literally means island of discussion, feuding members of the MacDonald clan were rowed out by their chief and left there until they sorted things out. Just two people, a stash of oatcakes, some cheese, and a bottle of whiskey. Once they came to an agreement, they'd paddle over to the neighboring Isle of Covenant to seal the deal. The whole setup was designed to keep family fights from turning into full-on warfare, and it actually worked. The island still exists today, just beside Ellenmont, which fittingly became the burial ground for the MacDonalds, Stewarts, and Camerons. History has given us many women who refuse to bow to patriarchy, but there's one in Europe that deserves a special mention. In 1663, Plautilla Bricci, Italy's first female architect, designed a palace in Rome shaped like a ship. It was called Via Benedetti, and even though it was some of her best work, people still tried to erase her part in it, even crediting it to her brother Basilio. But she left a paper trail, contracts and drawings in the Roman archives to prove that she was the one behind it. And just in case anyone tried it again, she made sure her name was on her next major project. When she designed the Chapel of San Luigi de Francesi, she painted the altarpiece herself and signed it with Plautilla Bricci of Rome made this. That's how you claim your place in history. And number 2 on our list today, we all love to talk about how overpopulated places like New York or London are. But strangely enough, 1 in every 10 people on Earth lives in this green zone right here. It's known as the Indo-Gangetic Plains, a fertile patch of land running through northern India, eastern Pakistan, southern Nepal, and most of Bangladesh. It covers just under 300,000 square miles, yet somehow manages to support almost 800 million people. This region has sustained massive civilizations for thousands of years, from the Mauryas to the Guptas, but today it's under real pressure from overpopulation and environmental stress. Nevertheless, when it comes to dense human life, the area is absolutely stacked. And finally, most of us have seen the photo of John Lennon signing an autograph for the man who would later shoot him. But there's also a clip where he reads a fan letter predicting his assassination and just shrugs it off. The footage comes from a late 1969 BBC documentary called 24 Hours, The World of John and Yoko, where John and Yoko are seen casually going through some of their fan mail. One of the letters claims the sender contacted Brian Epstein through a Ouija board and that John was going to be shot on March 6th. John reads it aloud, cracks a joke, and tosses it aside. Now, the date was totally wrong. He died on December 8th. But the eeriness of that scene hasn't faded with time. Maybe it's because we know what happened a bit later. It's one of those moments that felt like nothing at the time until the day it suddenly meant everything. Would you mess with the Ouija board? Let me know in the comments below. I've actually been talking to a lot of friends about it, whether they would or not. Anyway, that's a wrap. Not only did you make it through eerie fan mail, but you also sat through banana plagues, nanoflowers, and hammerhead sharks falling from the sky. But before you go, you have to answer this quick quiz. How long is the slowest moving cycle tracked by Belgium's wonder clock? Is it A, 365 days, B, 12 years, C, 2,000 years, or D, 26,000 years? Drop your answer in the comments below, and if you were paying attention, well, this one's kind of a freebie. Now, if you're still in the mood for more, check out our related video, 25 facts you'll be talking about all day. It's packed with everything, from a man with 68 years of hiccups to a fake disease that actually saved lives during World War II. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I know us YouTubers say it all the time, but that's because it works. And I'll catch you guys in the end next time. See ya.